Hi, and welcome to The Bright Balloon, a podcast where I'm sharing bright ideas for your balloon business. My name is Sarah Meyer, and I'm a balloon business owner like you, and I love the creative side of what I do, but I really love the business side, which seems to be the part where most people struggle. So I'm here to help. Each week, I'm bringing you an episode full of bite-sized tips you can use to make improvements in your business. I want you to make more money, eliminate stress, and learn along with me as we grow our creative businesses together. Welcome to The Bright Balloon, presented by 17 Hats.
Hello and welcome to another episode. Today I am chatting about what it was like to host the Big Balloon Build last March and how it inspired me to launch my own retreat, which I am chatting about at the end of this episode. So if that sounds exciting to you, you might want to pause and click into the show notes to check it out. Registration is open today and it is limited to the first 12 women to sign up. So more about that later in this episode, but let's take a quick break and hear from a sponsor, and then I will get into all of the details about hosting a big balloon build, and I am including the good, the bad, and the ugly. So stay tuned.
If you've listened to this podcast for any amount of time, you know that 17 Hats is what runs my entire business. So I was really excited when they came on as a podcast sponsor. Thank you so much to 17 Hats. But something very exciting is coming up. April 25th through the 27th is 17 Hats Boot Camp. So if you have 17 Hats and you're not using it to its fullest, or if you just don't know where to start, or you're looking to buy into 17 Hats, now is a great time, because this boot camp is a 3-day workshop for $200 where they will teach you everything. It's like an intensive. I will actually be on the calls as a moderator in some of the Zoom groups because there will be breakout sessions. But I understand that 17 Hats is a very steep learning curve. However, it has changed my business. It maintains really my life. It allows me to juggle as many things as I do and not drop the ball. So I love 17 Hats. It is my all-inclusive CRM, so customer relationship management system. It runs my whole business, and I'm not exaggerating. So if you want to up your game on 17 Hats, I highly, highly recommend this boot camp on April 25th through the 27th, and I will link it in the show notes. Summer is upon us, and that means graduation parties, 4th of July celebrations, and lots of baby and bridal showers. So instead of waiting until the last minute to order your materials, do yourself a favor and head over to havinaparty.com and just do a big inventory haul. You know you're going to use those balloons, and there's nothing worse than scrambling at the last minute to find what you need. So thank you to our supporters over at Having a Party Wholesale for always being such a great sponsor for this podcast.
All right, let's jump right in. First, I wanted to give a quick refresher of what the Big Balloon Build is, in case you're unaware. And then I will get into the good, the bad, the ugly of what it is to host. So the Big Balloon Build is an organization. It was started by Stuart Davies. He is from Wales, and he used to do this in his own community. And just recently, he has started doing these in the States. So the first one was in Vincennes, Indiana. Then there was one in Kansas City, Missouri. And then I was third. So Lake Geneva, it has been the most recent one and only the third one in the U.S. After me, there's going to be one in Colorado and then South Bend, Indiana. Those are both full, but they will be announcing more in the future. So if you're listening and thinking, well, gosh, I wish I could be involved in this, you will have an opportunity to do that very soon, I believe. So the way that the event works, it's a huge build. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a big balloon build. We used 120,000 balloons at my build, and artists come from all over the world to help with the actual building process because it's fun. You get to meet people. We all eat dinners together. It's a social event as much as it is a working event. And then on the Thursday, we basically do a ribbon cutting and we gift the whole thing to a local charity. And then the charity is able to take the installation and use it to fundraise. So that looks different depending on what the charity decides to do. They might host a gala with like a high ticket price meal. They might do something like general admission tickets. That's pretty much what we did. Other times it's been totally free and it's just been like a canned food drive. So it can look a different way, but that's up to the charity to basically utilize the balloons to then make money. And we did. Ours was a great success. We raised $110,000 for the charity. We had 2,500 people come through to see the balloons, and we did a canned food drive for the afternoon sessions, and we got 2,000 pounds of food donated that we were able to give to our local food pantry. So it was great. We were in the newspaper. We had a radio article. The press was there for the ribbon cutting. My Chamber of Commerce came. Like it was fabulous. But I want to get into some of the nuts and bolts early on because, like I said, this was like an 18-month planning process, and there was a lot looking back now that I either did accidentally that I'm very glad I did, or that I should have done different. So those are the things I'm going to focus on because, again, I want this to be a resource for people who are considering hosting. Or if you're going, I think it's fun to know like all the work that's gone into it behind the scenes. So let's start with the venue. The biggest thing is that the venue needs to be donated, which depending on where you live, if it's like my town, which is a resort town, it's really, really difficult to find a free venue. So I knew I was already going to be limited to like high school gyms, and like I didn't really want that. We don't really have a big like community center or anything. So I stumbled upon this gymnasium located at this beautiful camp and conference center. So that we totally lucked out. But I guess I thought they were just going to like unlock the doors for us every morning. I completely forgot about like trash removal and cleaning the bathrooms and replacing the toilet paper. And oh my gosh, we got a freak a foot of snow one of the mornings. And the camp, it was like everyone was called on duty to get the snow off the roads and plow, and like they took such good care of us, and I didn't think about any of those things before we actually started. So in terms of venue, yes, it needs to be free, but I think it also needs to have people dedicated to making the experience good. Like there has to be staff is what I'm saying. So I know some people have asked about like interesting locations, like barns, or one of the places I looked was an airplane hangar. And looking back, those would have been a disaster because there's nobody to take the trash out. There's nobody to come and help you in a pinch. There's no one to ask like, hey, the electrical sockets aren't working. What's the deal here? Because that happened to us. Like if you're in a unique kind of interesting space, I totally feel the draw to that. Like, ooh, let's do something out of the box. But it makes it exponentially more difficult. The two things actually that my venue didn't have, which I would recommend looking for in a future venue, is close parking. So we had to shuttle people in, and those shuttle buses cost thousands of dollars. So that was money out of the charity's pocket. But it was what it was. And then there was a big hill that people had to walk up. So close parking, like a hotel or, someplace with convenient parking, is definitely a priority. The other thing that never occurred to me is a kitchen. It would have been so nice to have a kitchen, and we didn't. So the number of, coffee pots we needed to fill up or spoons we needed to wash off because we ate there. That was really hard not having a kitchen, and it was something that didn't even occur to me before the event. So that's like a great to have, not a need to have, but I would definitely recommend looking for a place with an on-site kitchen. All right, let's move on to the sponsor or the person giving the money. So I think this may have changed since I signed on to host, but I basically got my sponsor to commit the funds, and they committed to me, which made things tricky because it really put me in the middle of a lot of things. I was trying to make them happy, but I was trying to make my charity happy. But then the charity also had different sponsors, which is their way of fundraising. And some of those sponsors got certain things like, they got a balloon arch at their location. So then I had to make sure that my headline sponsor was also getting those same things. And it made things a little confusing. So I would recommend that when you secure your funding, that they work with the charity to commit the funds. Basically, like have all sponsors, no matter how big or small, run through your charity. So that way, when there's a miscommunication or a question, your charity can handle all of that, because there were a couple times where I let the boundaries get a little fuzzy, and then I was kind of in the middle of some disagreements, or I would speak out of turn and be like, yeah, I'm sure that's fine. And in reality, what they were asking wasn't fine. And like little things like that I wish I could have removed myself from those situations. But like I said, I think this one has maybe resolved itself, because now I think your charity is the one who has to secure that sponsor. So they're basically like a pass through, and you as the host are hopefully removed from any of those, conversations that get, again, not bad, but there's so many moving pieces, and the more involved you are as a host, the more tricky, the more difficult it gets. And then the last thing is about your charity, picking a good charity. I would say two things about the charity. First of all, they need to have the workforce able to support this. So if you choose like the animal shelter, they'll probably be really grateful to be the beneficiary, but they just will not have the manpower to plan this event. You need a charity with like directors of giving and development coordinators, or someone who is in charge of planning their fundraisers and events. Like Kimberly, who I worked with, her full-time job is doing the fundraising events. So this was like one more event that she knew how to do. And she was like a powerhouse. She has like a binder of all the information, and she had the contacts, and she knew the deadlines, and she was really, really like a resource for me. So if it had been the other way around and I had been working with like part-time volunteers to put together the events, that all would have fallen on me, and it would have been really tricky. Versus like Kimberly figured out the ticketing software. She answered all the questions. She arranged the shuttle buses. She paid for the shirts for the volunteers. She got the volunteers. Like she got 100 volunteers to show up for this thing. So like what the charity has to do is monumental. Like I cannot say that enough. The charity has to do so much work. So it's not just a matter of finding a charity that is going to, take the money at the end. Like it's not that. They are working for that money. So that is my biggest kind of warning about the charity. Make sure that they have the bandwidth to actually do this event justice. Okay, next up. All right, let's fast forward to everything is planned. And Stuart and Liz and the team from the Big Balloon Build get here. So this is one of the things too that I wouldn't say I was super prepared for. And that was that the team arrives like almost a week before we start. So Stuart and Liz got to Lake Geneva on the Tuesday before the artists were all going to arrive on Sunday. And one of the things that it wasn't a problem, it just wasn't something that I considered, is that I am home-based. So when they come to start prepping, everything had to be done like in my little studio, which is really small. And all the balloons were delivered here. All of the pallets of equipment were delivered here. They needed to sort things. They needed to prep things. They needed to build framework. And I believe I am the first home-based business to host a build. So I don't know that any of us really knew what to expect. And it was tight, it was tight quarters. So I think if I had gone back, I probably would have worked to find a separate location, like a office building that I could have negotiated from some free space, or like a church, like there are plenty of churches with empty buildings or gyms or whatever. I think I would have had balloons shipped there. I would have had a workspace for the team over there. Like I think it just would have been a bit more comfortable, just because like I don't have a storefront. I don't have a warehouse. I don't have all of this room. So if you're home based, I would highly encourage you to find a prep space for the week before. I think it just would have made things easier. Like we were just on top of each other. I also had some jobs. Like I had jobs on the Friday and Saturday, thinking like, well, no one's coming until Sunday. Like I can clearly take these jobs. But because we were sorting balloons and like prepping, like it was really hard for me at night to then go in and prepare my jobs that then had to go out that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So again, not like this was a huge disaster. It was just something I never considered until we were already in it. And had I thought about it, and if I could go back, I would probably have found a roomier situation for the prep week. Okay, now let's actually jump into the actual week of the build. So the artists arrived. We had a meet and greet, which was lovely. I would highly recommend that people replicate that. Typically on the Sunday before, there's like not really anything arranged. There's like maybe an optional dinner, but my charity hosted a meet and greet at the coffee shop, and they put together goodie bags and they paid for a dinner. And I thought it was a wonderful kickoff, and super grateful that they did that, because again, like they paid for all of that. Like we didn't pay for that. So your charity doesn't have to do that, but I really appreciated that my charity appreciated what we were doing, right? Like I thought that was a really, really nice gesture. So we had a meet and greet, like a kickoff on that Sunday evening, and then we had to unload Sunday night because that was the earliest we could get into the venue. And then we were up and running. So Monday morning, we started building. So I should also mention, as the host, I had very little to do with the design or like the balloon process. I was in the initial meetings about like, I want the theme to be kind of like camp and outdoors. And I think it'd be cute if the animals are doing the camping instead of people, and kind of got the ball rolling. And then after that, it was Stuart, Jenny Porter, and Carrie Davies. So they did all the design. They turned the designs into blueprints, into inflation guides. Like they did all of that. So I was relieved, actually. Like I love designing stuff, but like I just couldn't. Like I did not have the bandwidth. So I was so grateful to have that totally taken care of. And out of all the things I worried about, I never worried about the balloons or the design, like at all. Finally, when I saw them, like it was actually pretty late. I saw the designs pretty close to the event, and they were great. Like I saw little bits and pieces, but it was actually surprising how much of a, I guess, non-event the design seemed. I know that like Karis and Jenny were just like working around the clock. And I think because I knew that was happening, I just had a 100% confidence in the balloon aspect. I knew it was going to be great, and I was relieved to not have to take on any of that work. So once we got started, there were smaller teams, which again, I wasn't on a team, but I liked the smaller teams. I felt like compared to the one that I was at in Vincennes, it seemed like everybody was doing something. So maybe that's not how it felt, to the builders. I'm not sure, but from the outside looking in, it looked like the smaller teams kept people busier instead of standing around and waiting for some direction on like what to do. So I like the smaller teams this year. I felt like the vibe was good. I feel like we had a awesome group of builders, like no drama that I experienced really. So that's amazing. But the hardest part of being a host, I'll just be honest, is like I wasn't there very much. So I have a lot of tips of how I would do the actual week different. I got way too burnt out. I was really tired. As the host, a lot of what I had to do was like run around and get stuff. So like we'd need more conduit, and I'd have to run to Home Depot. And then on the way, I'd get a call to pick up, more snacks, or we were out of water. And so like most of my week was filled with running errands. And I think that goes along with the hosting, right? A big part of hosting is the food and like running around and getting things. So had I done it different, I would have had someone helping me. I would have gotten volunteers or a runner, because I'm not kidding. I probably went to the grocery store 4 times a day, and I went to Home Depot at least 3 times a day on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. By Thursday, we were pretty much done with the supplies, the materials. But that just the back and forth in my car was surprisingly exhausting. The other thing that was really exhausting for me was the food, the freaking food. Oh my gosh. Food for 75 people. Never again. Like if my daughter gets married, she's going to Vegas. I will never, ever cater for 75 people again in my life. I was not good at it. I don't like doing it. If anyone was there, the food almost became a joke. So we had 2 issues with the food. The first was people with dietary restrictions. Like it was really hard for me to accommodate people with like gluten allergies, or like I'm just not great at that. Like I don't know what people who don't eat gluten eat. And my caterers like also, I think they provide like a gluten option, but it was just like a worse version of whatever was actually the real option, which that sucks because you're hungry, you're working hard. So I really wish the food had been better. And then at the dinners, we kept running out of food, which is like literally the worst nightmare of any host in any occasion, especially because when I throw a party, after it's over, I like it to look like the food wasn't even touched. Like there's so much of it, it's almost obscene. I like to overserve. So the fact that we were literally running out of food before people were able to get dinner really freaking sucked. So that started happening on the first day. And the problem was, this is something that I think could be avoided. we were at a cool brewery, which I thought was great. I really enjoyed it. But we had the food catered in. So once the catering was set up, that was it, right? Like they left. That was the food we ordered, the end. So then once people started going through this buffet line and taking 2 or 3 servings as opposed to one, because, people were hungry, the people at the end of the line went through and like it was Mexican food and they're like, we didn't have guacamole. We didn't have sour cream. We ran out of some of the chicken. Like we ran out of food, which sucks. And I had to kind of just tell myself like, this is terrible, but also everyone here is an adult and like they're not going to starve to death, right? But I felt really bad about that. And then towards the end of the week, we had things totally shifted, and all of a sudden we started getting like way too much food because I started panic ordering and I kept upping my orders because we just kept running out of food. And then for the last day we had Qdoba and they gave us like 3 times as much food as we could ever eat. And then these random pizzas just showed up. Like I had worked with Domino's probably 6 months ago to see if they would donate pizzas and like never really heard a yes or a no. And then all of a sudden 20 pizzas show up out of nowhere. So we had like 5 times as much food as we needed the day before everyone was leaving. So there was no use to even like save it as leftover. So like I would give myself as a host like a C- for the food. I really loved our seated dinner. And that is something I will say, having it at a restaurant was beneficial because once again, we ate all the food. The caterer literally pulled me aside. He was like, everyone's eating like, just like we've never seen before. They didn't know what they were in for. We were hungry. So they had to go and prepare more food. But because it was at their restaurant, they were able to do that versus catering into a different, like a brewery where you take the food and set it up. Like what's there is all that there is versus a restaurant. They will go out of their way to make it right. And they did. So the last thing I want to talk about is the number one question that I have received probably from 25 people at this point. And that is, was it worth it? Like people just want to know, was it worth it? So I will be honest, for me, yes, it was. But I don't want to paint a fake picture and say like, yeah, all you have to do is host one of these and then your business explodes, right? Like that's not what has happened to me, but those weren't my goals. So just like everything from reading a book to going to a convention to starting a business, like I always like to have goals or like a strategy behind it. And this was no different. So my goal in hosting a big balloon build was to grow my network of local businesses that I want to work with. So that's very simple. I wanted to use the big balloon build to get me in front of the people that are pretty hard to get in front of, right? Like people who have large businesses or who are, higher up in like our chamber of commerce, like these people who are known in the community, but you can't just go and like make a meeting with. So really, all that to say, the big balloon build opened doors for me, and it literally did. And that is cool because I was able to have a lot of those meetings and meet a lot of those new connections before the build even took place. And then the week of the build, when people actually saw it and realized what I've been talking about this whole time, I think they were pretty impressed. That is what I needed to happen in order to make it feel quote unquote worth it. So yes, it was. I've actually gotten 2 jobs so far. Granted, it's only been 3 weeks since the build. I have gotten 2 jobs. Actually, those people were not even at that VIP night. They saw me on the news, and they're recurring, pretty good corporate jobs. So if that's how you are defining, is it worth it? Yes, it could be. But again, I think the biggest point I'm trying to make is that you need to figure out what would be worth it for you as a host. All right, let's take a quick break, and then I'm going to talk about how all of this experience finally pushed me to host a retreat, which is something I have been thinking about doing for over a year now, and I'm really excited to launch it today.
You may have noticed that recently our commercial breaks sponsored by Asset Lab are now called Balloon Suite. And that is because the great folks over at Asset Lab have niched down even more to better serve our industry with Balloon Suite, which is a templated website process that is specifically catered to our industry. So you're going to get great service. They know our industry really well. They even did a team building experience where they made their own grab and go garlands as a team, which is really cool because they all work remote. So there are really great photos out there of their team figuring out how to make a grab and go garland so that they better understand what we do. All of that to say, I am thrilled that my Bright Balloon website is in the process of being handed over to Balloon Suite, and they are working wonders. So that is coming soon. So far, the customer service experience has been great and really hands off, which is honestly what I need right now. So thank you so much to Asset Lab and Balloon Suite for sponsoring this podcast.
All right, so this brings me to my next big adventure, which is hosting a women's retreat. And I'm calling it the Glow Retreat. And the idea has been in my head for about a year. But after the big balloon build, it really reinforced the things that I want to do and reinforced the reasons why I want to do them. So, like I said, the food was kind of a disaster at the big balloon build. And that really sucked as a host. I wanted to do better, but it was just really difficult on that scale. 75 people is a lot. So I am kind of going the far opposite end, and I'm hosting a retreat for 12 people maximum. So when it's full, it's full. So there will be 12 of us, which means that the meals don't have to be like mass catered orders. We are just going to go to restaurants and order whatever you want off the menu and have great conversation with, great food, good wine, good whatever you drink. That is where I do my learning. That is where I make friends. That is where I feel like my business and my soul feels happy. So that is what I want to provide for whoever attends the Glow Retreat. So the dates are up. The registration is open, but it is going to be August 7th through 10th. Those are weekdays, so you'll arrive on a Monday and you will leave on a Thursday. So it's 3 nights and 2 full days of working. And the actual curriculum, and when I say working, I just want to clarify, there are no balloons. This is for balloon business owners, but there are no balloons because I don't know. I want to focus on my business and I don't necessarily want to have to do balloons. So this is a balloon-free retreat for balloon business owners. And those dates are the 7th, which is a Monday, and you'll stay overnight to the Tuesday, overnight to the Wednesday, overnight, and then leave Thursday morning. The thing that I really wanted to put in place for the retreat is an all-inclusive price, meaning when you register, that includes your room for the week, that includes all of your meals for the week, that includes any extra little things we're going to do. Like I'm excited, we're going to go to this place where you can design your own custom scent and then pour a candle, and then that'll be your souvenir. And I thought it fit really cute with the idea of the Glow Retreat. So anything like that, it's all covered. So all you have to pay for is the registration and then get yourself here, and you won't spend another penny. So again, obviously, I love this idea of conversation, of food, of eating meals together. So our breakfasts and lunches will be on site at Covenant Harbor in our hotel style accommodations. I just don't want you to think you're staying in cabins. It's a hotel room. And then they have a private dining room that we will take breaks and eat in. And then they have a nice meeting room with a fireplace and a view of the lake where we will basically do our sessions. So the actual curriculum, if you will, is going to be largely based on my favorite book, which is The Pumpkin Plan. So this idea of defining your area of innovation, identifying your big pumpkin clients, figuring out what makes you a good fit with those clients, why they like you, and then identifying other clients like them that you want to work with. So this idea of growing and planting good pumpkin seeds so that your future clients look a lot like your best clients. So what I'm most excited about is first, group feedback, this idea that we'll be able to bounce ideas off of each other. Second of all, we'll all be from different areas, so there's no feeling of competition or, you'll be getting feedback from other balloon business owners that are not necessarily in your immediate area, so it should be a very safe space. I love the idea of just conversation. Lots of things just end up coming out when you're having long conversations, whether it's a tip here and there, or if we're going to help someone redefine what they want out of their business. I'm not sure. And then we're also going to have time to do the work. So I don't want to just spend 3 days making a list of homework. I want time to actually do the tasks. So there will be some time to actually get out our computers and do the work. And then the final session is going to be a game plan moving forward. So what's your next 30 days after leaving the retreat? How do you keep glowing? How do you capture what you've learned or what you felt about yourself or your business during these 3 days. And what are you going to do next when you get home? Like, what are the actual action steps you are going to take? So more will be fleshed out in terms of the actual like curriculum that will all be prepared. But like everything, I am just kind of like the facilitator. I will be learning along as with the group. Like I don't see myself as any different. I am a balloon business owner. I think I will gain as much from the retreat as any of the participants. So I don't want it to feel like you're coming so you can just like learn from teacher Sarah. That's just not how I do anything. We'll all be going through it together, and I think it'll be really cool because as much as I loved the book, The Pumpkin Plan, it's like my favorite book, there's a lot of pieces to it that I still haven't implemented because just life is busy and I just need to set aside some time to actually complete these tasks, and that is what I'm hoping happens. And then obviously every night we're going to go out to a great restaurant, drink good wine, relax, have good conversation, because no matter what I'm at, that is my favorite part. Whether I'm at Balloon Boss Summit or Float or the Big Balloon Build, my favorite moments are dinners where I'm meeting new people and having cool insights into my business, or being able to share tips that might help someone else, or even just like getting to know people. Like having those relationships in the industry, I think are so powerful, and having the time and the space to really form those relationships is rare. So that is what I'm hoping to accomplish with the retreat. I'm really excited. Registration is open now. There are only 12 spots. So I'm not going to lie. I don't know if 0 people are going to sign up or 12 people. 12 people are going to sign up. This is a first for me, but I'm really excited. And like I said, the Big Balloon Build was so fun and such a huge success, but it really made me realize that like my heart is in small, intimate settings. So if this sounds like something that you would enjoy, I would love for you to fill out the application. And it's a first come, first serve. So there's a deposit due, and then the remaining balance is due in July. So with that, I am going to wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed hearing about some of the behind the scenes of hosting a Big Balloon Build, and I'm so excited to see how the next hosts do. I think that the more that happen, the better we'll all get, right? Like I'm an open book. I'm happy to share some of the things that I maybe didn't do so well so that the next hosts can avoid some of those pitfalls. I don't think you know until you know. And in terms of the retreat, I'm very excited. I hope some of you are excited as well. This is something I've wanted to do for over a year now. And I also have to credit the Big Balloon Build with kind of pushing me to move forward with the retreat, because it taught me like I can do hard things. I can take things one step at a time. It's going to work out. And sometimes it's worth taking a risk and doing crazy things like this retreat, which I'm really nervous about, but I'm very excited to try. So thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening. As always, I tried to keep it bright and light. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, 17 Hats, which is the CRM I use to manage my entire business. Not only balloons, but also this podcast. The project tab is my favorite place to live because it gives me a visual overview of all of my upcoming jobs and clients, and I'm able to click into individual folders to see what documents I need to send, what invoices are overdue, or if they've paid, or details, notes, photos. It's like a digital filing cabinet for my business, and I love it. So you can click the link in the show notes to sign up today, or reach out if you have any questions about 17 Hats.